now entering the Horror Sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John and Kellen, and we are joined today by the events manager of one of our favorite horror cons, Scarefest, Miss Adrienne Deakins Elder. Adrienne, welcome to the Sanctum.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
So yeah, I wanted to start with Scarefest is a great event. We've both been, all of us have been. This will be our second year. I actually bought a ticket 2022, didn't get to go. My wife was sick, so I got the ticket, didn't get to go. But last year was awesome. So I wanted to start with, how did you get involved with Scarefest? Like, what was that? When did you start working with it? What was that process like, getting involved with the con?
Oh man, that is ancient history. I started with Scarefest 17 yeyears ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was at the first ever volunteers meeting to make Scarefest. So the meeting before the first event, and I got into it. Just a friend of a friend, heard that we liked horror movies. So me and my partner at the time signed up to help. And I'm like a bad penny. So once I really get, dig into something, it's kind of hard to get me out of it. But I volunteered for several years, just working with logistics and a lot of the hospitality aspect of bringing in the guests and, running and getting water and markers and things like that. But I loved it. So when I was offered the job as event director in 2019, I accepted, and we've been on this roller coaster ever since.
Oh, wow. So you were kind of I'm guessing you've been like a lifelong horror fan. It's kind of like a dream doing something like this, I would assume.
Well, it's funny because what drew me into Scarefest was, at the time, my boyfriend had a horror movie VHS collection, like 2,200 horror movies, and a lot of them were just like really obscure, European B movies, and we would have friends over and watch have really bad horror movie night, and we would just pick a random number, and they were alphabetized, and we'd watch them. But what really drew me into Scarefest, oddly enough, was more the administrative and the logistics side of it. It's like a puzzle. And it's a lot of fun to plan and coordinate events. And that's something I've always loved to do. So actually, that was probably it, a little bit more than the horror. And then the first year, Bill Moseley and Victor Miller made me kind of like fall in love with the thought of, doing it again, because they were wonderful. So Bill Moseley is probably one of the reasons I stuck around.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know about Scarefest. I think I didn't know about it consciously probably until like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But I used to listen to a radio show, Dead Pit Radio.
Yeah.
And they would always talk about Scarefest. And I didn't realize it had been going for so long. Did it start in like the late 90s, or when did it first start?
2008.
2008. Okay. So it was, okay. Wow.
Yeah, 2008 was our first year, and it was September. I've got the poster in the hallway, but September 10th through 12th, I think, was our first year, or maybe it was 11th through 13th. I'd have to go and check, but 2008. Been going since then.
Oh wow! So the process. So you have an event every year.
Mm-hmm.
What's the process like? Just planning it. So like for instance, this year. It happens, the weekend's over, it's a success. I mean, it will be a success. It's going to be huge. So that Monday, do you take a break, or how is it like planning out like the guest and getting back into the grind of the next year?
That's a phenomenal question. And so I've actually already started planning some for 2025. I have our dates as far as 2028, like with the convention center and things like that. So we basically, the first things first is we do closeouts for 1 to 2 weeks after the show, payables, any kind of loose ends, or we got to pay our hotel bills, that kind of stuff, So there's a lot of reconciliation that goes on afterwards. And then after that first week, 10 days, then don't say the word Scarefest to me for at least a couple weeks. Last year, no joke, we had a great show. It was wonderful. But after, 5 straight days of being just in this constant processing of information mode, I took all my social media apps off of my phone and I kept it on Do Not Disturb for like a week. So definitely, we do take a knee and we take some downtime because it's even attending shows, and you all may be familiar with this concept, but like you go to a show and you get like, you have so much overstimulation from the people and being out, and then you get like con drop once you get home. So it's, it's like this huge rush, and then you're just like, man, I'm kind of wore out. So it's like that, just a little bit longer, but we get back in the saddle pretty quickly, and we have most of our lineup booked by about January. So, we have a pretty good idea of how our guest lineup for the show is going to be, by at least by February. We know, pretty solidly what we're going to be doing. And, so it starts really early. It's like, it never stops, really.
Right.
Some of it kind of goes, a little earlier. Like I said, we've already got contracts and stuff in place for next year. We've got some guests already booked for next year, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's weird. I grew up in Mississippi, so I never got to go to a lot of cons at all. I knew about them. I had heard of stuff. I knew what Monster Mania was.
Nice.
But I remember like in my 20s, I remember in the 2000s, the con thing got so big, right? And then the Walking Dead thing hit. And then for a while, COVID happened, and there was a lot of cons. It hurt a lot of things. Do you think now? How would you compare like now conventions versus then? Do you think it's bigger now in general, the convention circuit, or do you think it's about the same as it was in like the 2000s, like the peak?
That's also a really great question. I think honestly, it is leagues ahead of where it was, and I can't actually explain it. I've thought about it a little bit, but I know that we have experienced exponential growth. We didn't have a show in 2020, but we did have one in 2021. And also going into 2021, we were in our new convention center. So I know that changed things a bit too. We had gotten a brand new building. We had a ton of room for expansion that just wouldn't have been possible in the old Lexington Center. Right. But I know that we have experienced, like I said, a huge amount of growth. I've noticed, other shows also growing, their venues, they've expanded venues, their attendance is raising. And I thought, at first, maybe it was where people had experienced a long period of lockdown, that they were just coming out of that and wanting to hang out with people again and stretch your legs because you could. And I don't know, it's almost like culturally kind of a shift. People really are going more towards, events and spending time with friends and doing things versus maybe more material objects. It's more about experience, maybe.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, at least for us, since the pandemic and missing a year, we've almost doubled in size every year since then, almost.
Yeah, my bank account thanks you for that, by the way.
So
I know.
Yeah, I think the first con that I went to a con in Memphis years ago, but in 2021, I actually went to Fright Night Film Fest. It was like the last one they did.
Yeah.
And it was weird because it was just COVID, wasn't a lot of people. And I remember hearing all these stories. People were like, oh, this used to be huge. And I know that year, Scarefest, y'all did great even during COVID. Yeah. One thing I was wondering about, and I know Kellen has some interesting questions he wants to ask. I'm a big physical media guy. I know we all are. Is there ever been plans or like discussions with like bringing in maybe like a Waxwork Records or like Vinegar Syndrome or any of those types. I didn't know if that's something that maybe would come down the pipeline or not so much, because I know y'all have a lot of mask and toy vendors and stuff, which is great too.
Yeah.
I just was curious about the physical media thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things about planning this event that I have the most fun with is seeing how we can incorporate different aspects of hobbies, collecting, those types of things. So I am always open to exploring options of bringing in, if there's something that we're, maybe we've got a little bit of it, like you were saying, a little bit, but we need something that would make a bigger effect. It would have a bigger presence to kind of represent certain collectors and hobbyists. Then I'm all about it. We're definitely open for trying it. I wrote down what you said, so I will definitely, and I'm open to recommendations. So if you want to send some other names, then we can definitely look into it.
Awesome.
So what I do is a little different. My questions aren't going to follow any kind of tradition. It's just a little thing we call Kellen's Fast Five, where I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions. Don't worry, I'm workshopping the karate intro. I haven't done yet, but I'm going to ask 5 quick questions. First answer to pop in your head. Are you ready?
Well, I should have known that you would be the difficult one because you're the only one of us that isn't wearing black.
My black part of my wardrobe is still in hiding.
He's also the thinnest of the 3 of us, so that's why we wear black.
Probably the 4 of us. So, okay, well, all right. This is dangerous though, because are you all going to be able to bleep out my answers if I say something wild and outlandish? Or, I don't want to get you taken off.
We have the ability. It doesn't mean we will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unedited, unfiltered.
Okay. All right.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. Would you rather be the final guy/girl or the most memorable kill in a slasher film?
Most memorable kill.
Oh, didn't even have to hesitate. I thought the same thing. I think they're more memorable than whoever ends up being the person that lives the longest. I think everybody.
You want to be the girl? Do you rather be the girl in Terrifier 2 in the bedroom?
Oh no!
Laura Lavara?
Wait! Oklahoma. I haven't seen Terrifier 2.
Oh wow! Really?
I want to. I know. And I'm paused, and you can edit this part out of the YouTube if you want to. But earlier
forever.
Good. Today, my partner was asking me a question about a movie I hadn't seen, and he was like, "Well, spoiler alert, I'm gonna tell you." And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Look, the statute of spoilers has well run its course. This movie is 7 years old." And I was like, I don't think that's right. So I Googled it. I Googled spoiler etiquette, and it turns out. Let me get a guess from each of you, and don't type, because look at me in the eyes. Don't type. What do you think it is? 10 what?
I was showing my hands.
Oh, okay.
10 was my initial thought too.
10 what? Days, weeks, months, years?
Probably, I don't know, 10 weeks.
Okay.
10 years.
That's what I said.
10 years?
I'm gonna say 12.
Okay, yeah. It's $7.
$1.
7 days. 7 days if you ask Google. Yep.
Like the ring?
Wow.
That's the
Google,
ring.
you
looked
dumb
up the
whore.
wrong rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, my thought was give me a decade to catch
7 days. That's
With you,
insane. Yeah, that's a bullshit article.
All right.
According to TikTok,
Whoever wrote that.
According to TikTok, it's 7 seconds after the movie's released.
Exactly. So these thieves online, I'll block somebody real quick for a spoiler. I will.
And Yahoo can eat an entire bag of dicks because you cannot open that website without getting spoiled on anything that comes up. It's like their top article is this surprise appearance by such and such in the movie was
oh, thanks, man.
Oh my God.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Question number 2. Living or dead, who would be your dream guest at Scarefest?
Oh, good one. Oh man. Does it have to be someone that we never had? Or could it be someone that we did have and I would love to have again but can't?
It's your answer. You answer the question.
Okay. George Romero. We had him twice. I got to work with him both times that he was at the show, at his table with him, right? A phenomenal guest. I mean, I know that's probably almost a little bit of a cop-out answer, because most people, if they did meet George, they'd love to meet him again. If they hadn't met him, they would have loved to have met him. But yeah, I think George Romero was probably like my favorite guest.
Just to wreck your whole world, I've never seen a single George Romero movie.
Okay, all right, I got you.
We don't.
We all got him. That's the thing.
Yeah.
he got Night of the Living Dead for his birthday last month.
Did you ever play Call of Duty Zombies?
I did.
Did you play the one with Danny Trejo and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Robert Englund, where George Romero was the giant bad guy?
I had no idea.
Well, you should. It's phenomenal. So
I should. I
watch the movie, play the game, and you get to fight George Romero. And he was tickled to death about that. He loved that.
That's awesome. All right, question number 3. If you could reach into the screen and pull out all the characters from a horror movie, not the actors and actresses, the actual characters themselves, for a panel at Scarefest, who would it be?
Okay, well, I really love our attendees, and I feel like pulling characters out of a horror movie and putting them in a room with a bunch of innocent folks is a really terrible thing for an event.
They're not going to kill anybody. They're going to sit there like a normal guest panel, and they're going to answer questions for the audience they know all the knowledge from the universe they're in. But they're just going to show. You're just going to plop them on some couches.
Zelda from Pet Sematary is just going to sit there. Right? Yeah.
Hey, man, there's oh goodness, that is a really good question. You ask everybody this, or do you think up a new batch each time?
A new batch each time. Yeah, I try to make them specific to the content that we're doing. So
okay, I'm impressed. Let's see. I'm just gonna give a quick scan of the library.
Ask the audience. That's one lifeline used.
Yeah, is that right?
While she's thinking, we want to thank our sponsor, Johnsonville Hot Dogs, the best hot dogs this side of the Mississippi. That's right, Johnsonville Hot Dogs for all your bratwurst and hot dog needs.
Sponsored by Farmer Vincent.
It takes all kinds of critters for Farmer Vincent's fritters.
We're gonna get sued by whoever owns the rights to that.
I just got a cease and desist email already.
Oh man, this is awful. I don't know what to say.
No pressure, but there's a whole lot of Jason Voorhees memorabilia behind you.
No, I know. Well, he doesn't talk.
He would for this.
How are you going to ask somebody questions who doesn't talk?
He will. He'll be like.
I think mine would be the Burbs. Since we're just sitting here, I like the Burbs. That would be a good little cast to have.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm phoning a friend. I'm going with the Burbs.
Nice.
There we go.
Well, speaking of the Burbs, my example for this next question is related to the Burbs. But question number 4, who would be your unconventional choice for an actor or actress to play the monster in a horror film? And by unconventional, I mean an actor or actress you wouldn't expect to play that kind of role. And my initial thought was like Tom Hanks as a killer.
Right.
I would love to see that because it would be so out of the way.
Oh, yeah. That's
So who would be yours?
What do you call that when you have like it's like a shock, as someone that's like typecasted for a certain role that does something wildly different? There's got to be a name for that. But let's see. Okay. So who would I like to see? It's got to be somebody like really sweet, right? Like somebody really just wonderful and innocent.
Fred Rogers.
Right.
And I don't know. He might actually be kind of crazy. He might be too nice. The really nice ones freak me out. Oh man, who would I like to see play a killer? Well, this maybe not sweet or innocent.
Christ.
What?
Right. Jesus Christ.
He is risen, and now you're about to be buried.
Was in Family Guy Passion of the Christ too, and he has like guns that are crosses. He's like James Bond.
That is very true, man. I'm trying to think like somebody.
Don't feel bad. Everyone has trouble with my questions because they're so out there.
No, I love it. I love it. It is totally just different.
I think Tom Hanks would be. I mean, he did Collateral, but Tom Cruise. He did Collateral. I think Tom Cruise could be a good killer.
Well, Tom Cruise was an excellent killer in Interview with the Vampire.
That's true, wasn't that?
Yeah, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Because I was thinking about that. I was like, well, because, Brad Pitt. And then you've got, it makes me think back of like, Kirsten that played Claudia, like the little innocent. And she looks so sweet, but she's actually a cold-blooded killer. Okay, so this is kind of pulling off a personal experience, but who I would have loved to see play at least, and she might have. So I haven't seen everything she's ever done. But one person I would love to have seen in that kind of role would be Leslie Easterbrook. She was Mama Firefly in the Devil's Rejects franchise. And when I started doing Scarefest, Bill Moseley, like I said, just won my heart. Devil's Rejects was like my favorite movie. It had only been out a couple years. And when we had Leslie at Scarefest, I just, casually I had walked by and she'd asked me questions. So we started talking and some fans came up. They were talking about Devil's Rejects. And I told her, I said, there's a point in the movie where she does a scene and she's, in this jail cell and she's like going all crazy. And she went in that moment, like, and I didn't ask her to do this, but she went from this super soft spoken, kind-hearted, sweet older lady, and she snapped into role and started reciting her lines from that scene in the movie. And it was one of the most impactful experiences I've ever had at Scarefest, because it was incredible to me to see her just chit-chatting nonchalantly and then all of a sudden, being crazy and nasty and cursing and screaming. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Great answer. So number 5, are you ready?
I guess.
This is the end of the road, so
okay.
Make it a big one.
Okay.
Which horror film or franchise do you think you would have the best chance of surviving in, and why?
Which film or franchise would I have the best chance of surviving in, and why? Okay, so with any film or franchise, this might be a cop-out answer too. With any film or franchise, I feel like every one of us has been watching a movie and just thought like, dumbass, don't run up the steps. I kind of feel like utilizing a vehicle or getting away from the area, the affected area or person as quickly as possible would probably, unless it's Christine, because Christine's a car, right? She's mobile, she just run me down. Okay, I'm not choosing Christine because she'd probably end me. Not getting away from Freddy because you have to sleep at some point. I would say that, I feel like a lot of the Friday the 13th, I have not seen all 57 movies that are out there, Friday the 13th, but of what I have seen, most of the places that Friday 13th occurs, I would not ever find myself in those areas. So I would say probably Friday the 13th, just by avoiding the places where he likes to murder people.
Great answer. The only correct answer was April Fool's Day, because no one does it now.
I haven't seen that. I'll write it down.
No, so thank you so much. Those were great.
That would have been a tough question for me had we not just did an episode on Speak No Evil, which would be my answer, because I would never accept an invite to go to someone's house that I just met. That's a super easy situation to survive.
There you go. Wait, so you wouldn't accept an invite to go to anybody's house that you just met?
No.
Never.
I watch the news and watch horror movies every day. Absolutely not. I would have to meet them in a public place for at least 6 months to a year before I go to their house unattended.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Honestly, my answer should have been, because I work from home and I spend approximately 23.75 hours on average a day in my home. So,
It's a wildly specific amount of time.
well, I figure I leave my house like twice a week for like a half an hour. So average it out, like, yeah, I think it's probably about that. But yeah, but there are several serial killers that don't care and they just come in, and break into your living room and stuff. But anyway, no, excellent questions. Absolutely love that.
He does all right sometimes. That's why we have him. He took most of mine that I had written down. Like, I wanted to ask you about the dream guest. I was going to ask you your favorite guest, but you've mentioned Bill Moseley several times. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that's him. So I have one question.
Favorites. I don't
before we wrap up.
Okay.
I plan on meeting Courtney Gaines when we come up there. What do I have him sign? My Burbs vinyl, my Children of the Corn vinyl. Now, my Burbs vinyl has Corey Feldman's signature on it.
Okay.
So that adds a little spice to it, right? But the Children of the Corn waxwork is him on the front.
That's true. Okay.
So I'm truly struggling because there's other people I want to meet. Like, I'm excited for Nicholas Vance. We've had him on the show. He's going to be up there. Excited to meet him. Fucking Clive Barker.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, my bank account loves you and hates you at the same time.
Sure, I can understand that. Okay, so on the Burbs, is it one of those, like, you could have him sign the other side and make it symmetrical, like Corey's on one side, Courtney would be on the other, or what?
Yes. Currently, if I'm remembering correctly, Corey Feldman is bottom right corner, and the cover is like the house, almost like an island in space. So there's a lot of sky around the whole thing. Okay.
Do you have it displayed currently?
No.
Okay. So my other question was going to be, because vinyls, well, mine are in the other room, but vinyls are like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They take a lot of space. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So depending on how you have it and want to display it, it may be more space effective. If you really are split 50-50, it may be more space effective to have him sign the Burbs and just, have one item displayed with both signatures on it.
See, I was thinking just do both.
You just
no, I'm just joking.
Just said you hate me for booking all these guests. If you just do one, you can go and meet another person.
This is
also
true.
I think I just heard Jay's wallet say Oklahoma a couple of times.
Oklahoma. I was leaning towards Burbs anyways. That's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Awesome.
Burbs, Jurassic Park go 1 and 1B.
Hell yeah. I love Jurassic Park.
No, but all right.
Also a movie I've never seen.
And I did want to ask.
I'm kidding.
I'm kidding.
So I did want to ask this one last thing.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to put it out there because I've said it before to people, and I think a con like Scarefest,
they don't want you. They don't want you there.
No, I'm not. No, not me.
Scarefest presents.
I think right. No one would show up. I think at some point it would be amazing if somebody could get John Carpenter and Kurt Russell together for a con. And
what thing would they talk about?
If anyone could do it, it's either Horror Hound or Scarefest. So I'm putting it out in the universe. I know it's not simple. I know that I'm just talking,
and we'll give you James Pax as a side guest.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Fair. We definitely have been talking about John Carpenter, for the last couple of years, but there is so much, like we were talking about earlier, that goes into like pre-planning and kind of getting an idea for let me think of the best way to say this. We're kind of breaking the mold on a few things this year. I don't know, and I could be wrong, but I don't know of another horror show. I know Comic Cons have done it for sure, that has booked more than 100 guests, for one event. And we're doing that. We didn't mean to do that, but that's definitely happening. But when you are doing that, you have to make sure that you balance out enough to where, we've got a few guests that are a lot more expensive. They're closer to $100 for an autograph than they are, $20. And then you've got your great reunions. Like this year we're doing a Phantasm. We brought 10 people in from the Phantasm franchise. We've got 13 from Hatchet, 9 from Scream, all in one place. But a lot of those folks, you might have, 1 or 2 that are on the more expensive side. And then you've got, for your collectors and your enthusiasts, you've got all of these supporting casts that are going to be there. And you can get them on your one sheet. You can, you might love them from something totally unrelated, like Marley Shelton this year. When we first announced her, one of the girls that works with us was like, Wendy Peppercorn from The Sandlot. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize. Didn't realize that. But so, John, having him, I'm sure you can, appreciate that it takes a very delicate balancing act because he is a big budgeted item on our end, but also, he, for lack of a better word, he'll draw a lot of the revenue out of the room, especially because we haven't had him before. Like this year, Matthew Lillard is a really good example of that. Like he's going to have a ton of people that are coming primarily to see him. A lot of people have never been to Scarefest before, but even more than that, a lot of them haven't been to a horror convention or a fan convention before. So there's going to be a lot of newbies in there, which is great. It's great for getting new people into the community. It's great for like building up, getting the vendors and some of the other guests and artists and indie filmmakers, networking, getting new people into the scene is great. But John is definitely on the wish list. But we've got a lot of people that we want to bring in for next year. It might not happen for 2025, but he's definitely on the list for consideration for sure. So
that would be incredible and expensive, but it would be fun.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to be it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads for some reason, and join our group on Facebook. Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us. You want to take a second, tell everybody where they can buy Scarefest tickets and all that fun stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way to find out information is just scarefestweekend.com. Our ticket page is up there. Unfortunately, we are sold out of all of our weekend passes. We do still have day passes available. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, if anyone is new and they have questions about Scarefest, you want more information, Scarefest Weekend Fans on Facebook is a great group. It's very interactive. A ton of information is posted on that group. And then we also have every Friday at 9:00, we go live with Scarefest TV. We do all of our guest announcements at 9:30 on Fridays, as well as any happening news about the show and updates, things like that. So yep, scarefestweekend.com, Facebook and Instagram. And come drop us a line.
Yeah. So go buy your tickets. I know at least half of us will be there, if not 3. We went last year, had a blast. So check it out. Huge guest list. Like we didn't even get into that, like insane. We can't. It's going to give me anxiety thinking about how much money I'm going to spend. But anyways, thank you again for taking some time with us. Go buy tickets. We'll see you there. Signing off, I'm Jay with Adrienne, John, and Kellen. And until next time,
keep it spooky.